Hi everyone. Today's video is getting converted into a Q&A/AMA. You can ask questions generally related to whatever we've done, as in like whatever has been covered in the last few weeks. Other things basically pretty open. We'll do it for an hour and then I'll release an offline video with whatever we haven't covered until now. Chat is open. Feel free to drop off if you want to listen in the background. Feel free to. If you want to drop off, I've opened chat. All right. It's quite a lot of questions to go through. Let's start from the top. Guruji, ML or blockchain which to pursue? Now here is the time to but it becomes really difficult because blockchain is on the rise and Web3 is on the saturation. Everyone says going down. Sorry, ML. Pick and choose. Basically whatever interests you. Today there will be money in both the places. When will we do Docker? We will do Docker in 1-200. Basically after next year we'll do Docker. Although I have a very good video on YouTube that pretty much covers a lot of Docker very well. Should we use Cloudflare workers for backend and Cloudflare pages for frontend in a website which is not going to be visited much 100%? Either this stack or the Firebase stack, which is used Firebase hosting for frontend. The one thing that will still charge you right now is a database in Cloudflare. Unless you use Cloudflare has its own, something called durable objects or KV stores that let you do serverless databases. If you use that, then literally your cost is going to be zero until a really long time. If you use Firebase, then also database is serverless, backend is serverless, frontend is serverless. Not serverless, but like you get the idea. Frontend is very cheap, almost zero cost if you're hosting it. So yeah, I would choose one of these stacks if you're building a website that you cannot anticipate the traffic for initially. Please suggest some projects on storage protocols. You asked this question yesterday as well. What do you mean by storage protocols? Do you mean, okay, I want to store my images and videos on S3? Is that what you mean when you say like a simple application that stores some files somewhere, or do you mean something else? What is storage protocols? Can we get internships from the things we have learned so far? Yes. Easiest way to find one, go to the GitHub of Code100x, this website right here, and start to fix issues. I am not creating them as persistently, but I should. And there are obvious things that are bad in the current website. So at least create issues. A lot of people have created issues, try to fix them. If you are fixing a lot of them, then an internship is something you will get, as long as you don't charge 100K, because I'm not paying that much. Cool. So basically that's a start. If you can understand this code base, which you cannot yet because this project uses Next.js, but like let's say you will be able to understand this code base, or should be at least in a week or two. That's the best way to know at least are you skilled enough to get an internship, is if you can understand this code base. And then if you can, how do you find an internship? Is the standard. There's a class from last cohort. I can put a freelancing masterclass where I discuss a few strategies. That's how to approach companies. High level is underprice yourself too much so you can get in the door and then eventually price yourself up. You should check the podcast that came out on YouTube today. Pretty much covers a very similar story. How to do routing in Hono? In the docs it was understandable. Yes, it was very bad. Their docs are pretty bad, but thankfully I was able to find in their docs, if you go, if you really, it's a very small section in routing. So if you go to get started, if you go to routing, you'll see grouping. There you go. And this basically covers how you can create specific, like different routers, put them in different files. Yeah. How to structure your project in Hono? I'm assuming same question, and the answer is I've already put that here a little bit, as in put different routes across different files. Still the middleware exists, raw over here. This middleware we can put in a different file. I'll do all of that by the end of this, correct project, so that you can basically look at that final project or build along with me. Where I'll structure the project better. Getting 404. Your workers has access to following bindings. If you're getting a 404, are you hitting the right port, which means localhost 8787? Inside try, I see a bunch of logs, which seems like your postman is hitting. Oh, okay. Clearly it says post API/v1/signup not found. If you're using app.post, that looks wrong. Can you push your code base Gokul to GitHub? Link the GitHub next time and let me pull and debug and show you how I would debug the same thing. For WebSocket based projects, is having a separate backend a good idea in terms of scalability? What do you mean? You will, as in separate backend from your HTTP backend? Probably. If you have a WebSocket layer, yeah, basically everywhere I've seen the WebSocket server is separate from the core HTTP server. And today, like, no one's building core HTTP servers. People are either using Next.js for the backend or, you know, a bunch of these fancy technologies. So yeah, basically your WebSocket layer will be completely separate from your core backend, if that's your question. Or can we use, so you cannot use Next.js for WebSockets from what I know. Pretty sure it doesn't have any WebSocket support yet. So you can create front-end and backend in Next.js, but your WebSocket layer will be separate. Even if your front-end and backend are separate, you would still have a third layer, which is like the WebSocket layer, which is separate. Someone sent a very nice Notion doc, so thank you. I appreciate that. Error. This is the error. Sign up, it says error while signing up. This is the code base. Code base looks right. Everything looks right. Are you sure that this user, oh, what are you sending? API v1 sign up, raw. So a few things. Why are you sending ID1? What does your route expect? API v1 sign up. What does this route expect? It expects email and password. What are you sending? You are sending ID. So how will it work? And secondly, if I was to debug this, basically put a log here, right? Log exception over here. Most probably control is reaching here. In fact, it is reaching here. You can see it says error while signing up. You can see this is where error while signing up is coming. So why not put a log over here and check what the exception is and debug from there. There was another point. Please add documentation, make a video on how to run CMS repo locally. It would be really helpful for beginners. Sure, but the only problem is it's in Next.js. So if you are a beginner and haven't done Next.js, don't set up CMS just yet. Wait for 2-3 more weeks. When is the next Web3 video? Will it be on Solana? No, it will not be on Solana. When is a good question. Not the best timeline I have. Release pics of mobile meetup. I have them in a Google Drive. Let me ping Rookie. And we'll put them somewhere you guys can look at. Photos of meetup. All right. How to start using TypeScript in our project? So for front end, when you're initializing using Vite, select TypeScript. For backend, whenever you're initializing, we've covered a lot of this in like week 7, week 8, week 9. Seems like you've not done those weeks, then go to those weeks and come back. Use recall in this project. Not this one, maybe in a future one. This one, we can, if you want, we really can shove things in like a store, but you don't really need a store for this very simple application. I'm learning Web3. How much should I learn when I start applying for jobs? Depends. If you're applying for a protocol engineer, then a lot. If you're applying for, for normal full stack engineer in a Web3 company, then not too much. Even if you have basic knowledge of jargons, by jargon I mean, what is a private key? What is wallet balance? What is a transfer? What is an NFT? What is a marketplace? What is a DEX? How do you transfer assets? How does this specific blockchain create and transfer assets? If you understand this, you can apply. What should the pay for a full stack developer of the skills? What you're teaching? If you go through the complete course, 0 to 100, and if you're a good developer, what do you mean by good developer? You write good code, you are writing tests, you have coverage, you can understand business priorities, then 50K is pretty easily, basically if you're not getting a job for 50K, you probably don't have the skills or that company wouldn't have hired you. So basically, 50K is the number, which is humble for a US company. Uske baad, even if you bring it down to 30K, they will not. If they did not hire you for 50K, they will not hire you for 30K. Money is not the problem. Something else is the problem. So if you consider, a decent company in the US or even maybe in India, but definitely in the US, 50K is nothing for a full stack developer. If they're getting a great one, what do I mean by great one? Syllabus is done completely, understands everything themselves, understands business priorities, is willing to put 40 hours a week without too much compulsion of I will moonlight, if 50K isn't enough, I want 100K to, doing other jobs, all that jazz. So if you can promise that you are working full-time remotely and have the right skills, 50K is the right number. I've arrived at that number after a lot of, talking to a lot of people in podcasts generally who are working remotely and actually seeing deals happen in front of me. 30K to 50K is the humblest number you can start from. If you're a senior engineer, you can ask for a lot. Because there's the one thing I've seen a lot when I'm referring people is, okay, how much experience does he have? That sort of comes in. Even though, experience is a very vain metric, but let's say they do ask that from time to time. So if you have experience, it's easier to negotiate, even a 70K, 80K, 100K offer. But the humble number, if you currently want a job. Okay, I want to get into the remote job ecosystem. I want to work for a startup that's budding, might grow and everything. And then eventually once I get in, I will work a lot and increase my salary. 50k, 30 to 50k is the best rates. Video quality of recording is really bad. I have updated the video recording for yesterday's video. It should be better now. How do you create followers and following schema? Oh, okay. Social network mein, how would you create a followers and following schema? So I've mentioned this before. Okay, you know, if you have an application like this that needs to scale a lot, then you probably should use graph databases. But let's say you want to use a SQL database. So there's a users table which has a bunch of entries, and then there's a there might be nuances to, you know, this specific use case. How do you create something like following? And, you know, maybe you should not use SQL, you should use something else. But the dumbest solution is follower following, which, you know, is both of these are foreign keys to the users table. Yes. We're good, thank you. User ID 1 is following user ID 2, and then, you know, this following table is how you store the followers. There are nuances, you know, the follower count you should probably cache, because not if you go to Twitter, you know, what you really see is the follower count. And rarely does someone actually open this and want to see the list of followers. So, you know, this is something that should be easily cached somewhere in like a different database, and you have to make sure it's consistent. Aisa nahi ki if there are 40 entries here, the number that says 42. But that's one thing I would keep in mind if I'm creating something like this. Good question. We can do a I'm sure there are other industry ready practices that we should put in a social networking application, but we can discuss if we ever do a video like this. Secret is Yash. Someone pointed me to a code base. JavaScript mastery from the curiosity. Alright, this looks pretty good. Oh, someone solving all bounties and everything. Let's see. Oh, nice. Deliver a seamless, engaging journey through the interactive navigation. What is this? This looks pretty interesting. Sorry, just 1 second. Let me look at this. Oh, okay. This was the first bounty. Congratulations, bounty winners. Said, oh, okay. Someone's just maintaining a doc of all the bounties. And what else? Resources, assignments. Pretty good. I love this. It's very good. Super impressed. Can we get internships? Yes. How to find one? Approach people. DM them on Twitter. Tell them, create their web page for them and tell them, you know, this is a better version of your web page. There you go. I built it in this most modern stack of using ShadCN in the front end, Tailwind in the as a library. Look at my code, point them to the code, have a live version ready for them, shoot it at them, have a humble number. That's the only thing you can do. Everything else is out of your control. The way you can approach, as long as you're not spamming people and, you know, being rude and being, Bhaiya de do, please, I'm from India, you know, would love to get a job. I don't know much. I will work for free. As long as you're not doing that, you'll be fine. So, you know, the professionally approach people in Twitter DMs is the best way I've seen. Now, I haven't really applied for internships. So this is just, you know, if I was hiring someone, this would be a humble pitch. As long as their number is humble and they can show me value on day 0, I would at least think of hiring them. I would at least give them like a 2-month, 3-month probationary period. Motion doc, portfolio website. Why is the site not open source anymore? It is open source again. We took it down because people were spamming it, but it's better now. Portfolio looks pretty good, clean. Like, yeah, I like it because, you know, I mean, it's pretty clean. There is scope for improvement because the bar is just too high now, but it's still pretty good. And by scope of improvement, I mean, you know, look at a more, you know, this is usually considered the benchmark these days for a landing page. Oh, not this. This, so, you know, something like this is considered pretty good, or Stripe is also a good example of a very good landing page. So yeah, something like this. Like obvious things that you can pick from here, you know, the fonts, the design system, so on and so forth. What are we doing next week? We will try our best to start Next.js. Next week is also when we'll let the 1-200 people in. So Next.js and Docker, if you look at the syllabus, there are, let's look at the syllabus. This is the syllabus. The big things that are left is containerization and Next.js and Next.auth. Well, there are a few things here as well, if I'm being honest. Okay, this is done. This is a random video, doesn't matter. This I will try to cover using cookies. 1, 2, and 3. So these 3 things are left. OpenAPI Spike is like, and there's a last cohort video, not super important if I'm being honest. So these 2 can be very easily an offline video or like last cohort videos. Monorepo is important. This part, Next.js is important. Docker is important. These are the things we should cover. And if you look at the right, I think, yeah. This is another thing that we good to cover. Yeah. So we're pretty close, but still not there. But either way, we'll let the 100 people in next week. Should we use Cloudflare workers for backend in Cloudflare? Okay, I answered that. I made a backend app. Sorry, one second. Let me close this. Okay, general doubt. Harkirat, I was part of cohort 1. I'm a student of BA. Not pursuing technical degree due to some personal reason. I want to have a one-on-one convo with you. Could you reach out? So asking here, I'm in sync with the cohort, and there are a lot of times left even when I am done with the assignment and classes. I want to land a job in tech, so you guide me. What should we do next? General guidance overall. What route should I take, and do I stand a chance without a technical degree? Okay, a lot of questions here, but the first answer is no one's asking for your degree. No one. I mean, in these jobs too, there are of course jobs where that will ask you for a degree. And in fact, expect you to have a certain, some jobs even say you only need to be from tier 1 college or something like that. The jobs that, we sort of aim in this cohort, which are remote jobs, no one's asking for degree. So that's the biggest roadblock that I see here. Other than that, if you're in sync with the cohort, just do the things I'm saying, which is, find people out there. I can only, refer a few people. I cannot refer so many people. So you will have to just follow a very humble, non-spammy path of reaching out to founders, giving them value, and asking for either an internship or if you're an experienced person, asking for a job with a humble salary. I think that's the starting point to all of this. Check out the podcast on today's story. Pretty much covers the same thing. I am learning web. Okay, answered that. 403 page on error. If you have an error, create a Notion doc, put it there. I'll answer it. Portfolio site. So please increase duration. Of course, I'm not able to catch up. The course is here. It's not going anywhere. I'm also thinking, I'm not sure yet, but doing another mini, extremely heavy course on. So there are 2 parts, 2 sort of people in the cohort. It's a very binary thing. People who are caught up, people who are not, and people who are not are slowly, leaving. And the people who are caught up are doing okay. So for the people who are left, I'm trying my best to do something here. That said, there's no official timeline to the code. It will keep on going as long as we need for it to go. Notion doc. That said, you should, I think, start catching up if you're not caught up yet. I think we can extend this for 3 years. But the whole point is there are people who can and have been up to speed. So take out time during your day and try to catch up. How's life lately? Today's been pretty bad. Paris has been pretty brutal. I don't love the food here. So yeah, hoping to come back to India soon. Alright, more questions. There we go. Alright. Yeah, Notion docs are always appreciated if you give me access. So this is a closed Notion doc. Ankit, can you open the doc? I'm in 4th semester and ahead of the cohort, like I have done Turbo Repo, Next.js, Docker, and should I start contributing? Yes. If you've done monorepos, if you've done Docker, if you've done Next.js, then that's the end of 0 to 1. The end of 0 to 1 is at least enough to contribute to Next.js applications that are present. I don't want to name open source projects, but Google a bit, you will find them. If I name one, everyone will go there. There's no point. So Google a bit. Google a few startups, recently raised seed startups whose code is open source. You'll find at least 3-4 startups which are in the stack, which means Next.js for front end, back end, monorepos throughout, and Tailwind as the styling library, maybe ChatCN, and start contributing to them very humbly. Please check this Notion site. Next.js Vercel error. Please have a look at this project. Okay, let's see. It's a Twitter clone. Question 1. See the API handler response is 4 MB. How can caching help me get out of this? In the logs it says serverless function. Sorry, what's the question? Question number 1. It says API handler response exceeds 4 MB. Can caching help me get out of this? Where are you seeing that? But yeah, getting these logs in Vercel. Okay, you're getting these logs, which say number 1 so there are two things you can do. You can go outside of the Vercel ecosystem, because this is a limitation on Vercel. If you host it yourself on your own server, you can increase this to whatever you want. So that's one solution here. That said, it seems like you're just worried about the logs. Your application logic is correct. Your application isn't doing anything funny. So in that, just try to figure out what specific route this is. 4 MB is little too much for any API to return. So there is some problem in your code. No API issue, unless it seems like you're either returning images or image data or raw some media through an API route, which is something you shouldn't do. So to just clean up the route, there shouldn't be any route that's 4 MB. But if there is a use case you'll have to self-host, or I don't know if Vercel lets you increase this limit. But yeah, why API handlers created using Next.js automatically gets converted into independent functions in Vercel? Is Vercel providing automatic serverless function? Yes. So that's the offering of Vercel, right? Okay, you create an Next.js application, and we will have edge servers all around. Why do people want to pay Vercel so much rather than self-hosting? Our simple website that we have, like app.hendrixsteps.com. This month, there aren't too many websites here. There's just app.hendrixsteps.com, and then there's the daily code website. In the last 1 month, these websites build around $720. That's why I stopped the billing here. If I wouldn't have, this would have been easily $3,000 or something like that. The reason people pay Vercel this much is because Vercel provides you sort of serverless functions. More popularly, they're called edge functions, which means it deploys your code both front end and back end on the edge. By edge, it means they have thousands of servers all around the world. They don't. They use AWS in the background, but you get the idea. Your application gets deployed in thousands of servers. Not exactly gets deployed in thousands of servers. If there is someone in India that's visiting your website, if you hit the India server, they let you distribute your application very well, which is what they charge for. And yes, to answer your question, they have these serverless functions. As you can see, it says serverless function execution, which took this much GB hours, which is like the total, consumption that happened, which ended up, filling up this much. So yeah, the answer is yes. Even though you're not creating serverless functions independently in Vercel, whenever you publish it to Vercel, your Next.js app to Vercel, it does, serverlessify your backend, front end, everything. I'm in 4th semester and ahead of the okay, answered that. Notion doc. How betting sites like Stake work? Where do you find will tech boom? Okay, two different questions. Where will you find tech boom is, I don't know. Very hard to predict, but like the general hype cycles are currently in AI and Web3. And the other question, betting websites are fairly simple. It's just a real-time application. There's a video bit that's a little difficult there. Syncing live video with the game logic, but it's not too difficult. In fact, this might be, something I might cover in the code as well. Not exactly like a gambling website, will be a little too dumb to do, but like, a simple real-time game, which if you understand that, you can understand gambling websites. First, how much depth do you need to have in all these texts covering the code to have a remote company? Good question. Not a lot. Depends on the level of the company you're targeting. If you're targeting a company that's raised more than like 10 mil, then they will, check the knowledge of your depth. If you're targeting a seed stage company, has raised 2-3 mil, is just looking for an offshore engineer to, hit the ground running, they don't care. They need a cheap engineer to start creating the website. So over there, even if you write bad code, it works. Second, how do you, not where, approach remote companies if you are a fresher? How do you approach companies as a fresher? You DM founders. Don't spam founders again. I'm saying this again because I don't want everyone to do this, but you get the idea. Very humbly find one founder that you don't think is being spammed right now and ping them very humbly and go from there. How will you convince them to hire you? That's where you Number one, need to make sure you actually have the skills. Number two, show some value up front, which can be by copying giving them some extra that you think they're lacking, looking at their website and building a better version of it, all that jazz. What type of projects should one make which can impress these companies just in the same domain that the company is working? If you're approaching a company that's, let's say, building a VS Code autopilot, which is like a lot of companies today, GitHub autopilot, build an autopilot for a web-based IDE, or what do you call it, like Vim, Vim, some version that immediately like, we need this very soon, so let's just get this guy on board, he's built this, something like that. Which kind of experience do these companies ask for? Oh, so yeah, experience mein ye hai ki every company that I talk to today, at least they ask, what is his experience? Does he have 5 years of experience? Would you love to have 5 years of experience? It's easy to convince them that experience doesn't matter, and skills matter. But that said, there's always this thing in their head, he's not a senior engineer, he was just recently graduated. So it becomes just becomes one annoying thing to convince them experience doesn't matter. That said, fake experience a little bit. If you're in college, if you work 2 years, you have 2 years of experience. Because if you can provide value, there's no harm faking a little bit, not too much. If you're in school and you're saying I have 5 years experience, don't do that. But if you've done a GSOC, if you've done an internship, twist that experience into remote work, full-time experience, and put it there. How will you approach in such a situation? I think answer that. And also, should one directly focus on remote offer or climb up the ladder? Doesn't matter. Unless you want to, so if you don't want to go down the DSA route, then remote jobs or startup jobs in India, whatever, doesn't matter. They'll be equally difficult basically. If anything, remote job might be simpler because you are giving them a very cheap employee. But if you go down, if you're not ready for that yet, if you're not ready for the risks and uncertainty that comes with the remote job, is when I would go for the normal climb up the route and go to Bangalore for a job. I get intimidated when I open an open source code base. How do I understand it? Yeah, this is very common question. How do you understand a big code base? You will not get intimidated if you have built at least a few projects in that specific stack. So the first thing always is, if you open a code base and it's written in C++ and you don't know C++, you will not understand it. I've said this many times, let me repeat it again. Whenever you're opening a code base, there's a lot of context you have to gain. There's a lot of, wahan ke developer might have written some random code somewhere and, had some hacks somewhere. So you will have to understand all of those hacks and see how things are working already. If during all of this, you also have to understand the stack from scratch, you won't be able to do it, you'll drop off. So basically, if you're opening a code base, only open a code base, discuss stack at least you're very comfortable with, then you can at least start to gather, the context of the company. How to maintain such crazy discipline? Yaar, ye to thoda motivation, money ki motivation initially is good, family motivation, things like these easily translate to, having relentless discipline. That said, even I'm not too disciplined these days. I used to be, jab paisa nahi hota tab banda is very disciplined. Brother, could not do live meetup? Could we do Zoom meetup? Yeah, we want to do like smaller subgroup meetups. It's all in the pipeline. It's all, depends on bandwidth. Should we focus on live video? Should we focus on offline video? There's limited hours I have every week. I want to do it. This is a question of when it happens. It'll happen though. I'll do smaller live meetups online, and Bangalore and Delhi offline meetups. I am Naveen Kumar. Looks pretty good, Naveen. Yeah, looks pretty good. I can tell no one looks at portfolio website. I don't know why people build it. I mean, if it's for learning, it's great. But am I looking at someone's? No. What you really need to approach them with is, here's a clone of your, not clone of your website. That's pretty dumb. Okay, I am so free. I was building a clone of your website. Either if their website is really ugly, then create a very clean version of it. Or if their website, they're, as I said, building something like Copilot, build something similar and show them something that they might need immediately. All right. How do you store password hashing in Hono? Because we can't use bcrypt. I tried the link you provided, but it's complex. Sure. I mean, I'll probably cover this in a video, but let me take you through the links that I posted yesterday. There's also some guy who posted, this is not the right way to do it. I'm unsure if that's true. I asked the reasoning for it. He did not have very good reasoning. He just Googled a bit and so his reasoning was, okay, you shouldn't do password hashing in Cloudflare because Cloudflare workers have a timeout, and this is an expensive operation. I don't think hashing passwords is very expensive. I don't think it'll take more than a few milliseconds. I could be wrong. Probably not. I mean, it doesn't take more than a few milliseconds to hash a password. So I would still do it in a serverless, inside this. So the thing that the person suggested was, someone from the cohort who said, you shouldn't do it this way, and you should have a separate service, a separate backend server that's doing password hashing. I think that's just defeats the purpose of having a serverless offering. If you're then just create a normal server. If you're going to do one thing in the normal server, do everything in the normal server. So I still feel this is the right way to do it. I would still do password hashing inside my serverless function. And how I would do it is right here you cannot use Bcrypt, but you can use this web crypto library, which I arrived at from, again, someone asked for it, how to do it. Someone suggested you use this library, and this is how you would encrypt a password. You would, let's say, hello world is what you want to encode. This is the code that you would write. Eventually, you would get back a. Unsure if this will be a string. Let's see. Crypto digest. You have to log, but I'm assuming this will be a string that you can finally put in the database. You should also add a salt over here. So hello world plus the salt is what you should encode. But I'll put this in the video. So yeah, we anyways need to cover this. We've done too many projects with plain text passwords, so let's do one with the real way to store passwords. All right. I'm in 4th semester. Okay, answered that. Check this out. I did see that in someone's video, some YouTuber's only video. This is pretty good. I think one guy here is from India. I could be wrong. But yeah. Oh no, it's not from India. It's like the whole thing is from India. I should follow him. But yeah, this was pretty chill. I saw this. Pretty smart. I don't know. Obviously a very niche use case, but very cool. That it's been built in a way where you can bring all of this code open source, all that jazz. But yeah, pretty cool. These are niche things. I mean, I don't know. This is like a little too ambitious of a path to take, but this is a really good path to to money, because I'm sure he's getting hired wherever he wants. I'm sure if he goes to Vercel today, he's getting hired there today. Very difficult path though. Like, he knows a lot for him to build something like this. But yeah, brother, could we answer that? Currently learning Rust before Web3 Solana. Yeah, if you want to do contracts on Solana, then you have to do Rust. Good path you're taking. Video on Auth if possible. We're doing next Auth. If you do next Auth is very simple. Like, Auth takes all that pain. Happy to do it at the very end, not anytime soon. We have a lot to cover before that. Went through some docs on hashing passwords and came to know about cryptos, digest, and crypto API. But how do I verify the password for signing? Like, we use Express cause without that it's useless to hash password. Yeah, so when someone comes to your website, you again hash their password. If this is your backend route and someone hits your backend route with a sign-in API with username Harkirat, password 123, you first on your server again rehash 123 into whatever the hash was, and then this hash you compare with the DB value. That is how you do the comparison. So every time someone sends you their sign-in, hits your sign-in route, you first hash in memory and compare the hash with your password hash in the database. When will 0 to 1 complete? There's a very thin line. Doesn't matter. Does it really matter? The course is going on. It will go on at least for the next 1 month. 0 to 1 people can stay. And yeah, I don't have a timeline in mind. We'll just try to cover everything. Don't have a timeline in mind, and it's very hard for me to I'm trying my best, but take everyone together, because some people are very behind, some people are very ahead. So I'm just trying to find the best combination to actually answer your question. I don't know, probably a month. Why do we choose Hono? Only because of Cloudflare serverless? Yes, because we wanted to do serverless, and the easiest way to do serverless on Cloudflare is to use Hono, or even like other serverless offerings. Even if you want to do AWS Lambda, you can use Hono. You can use Express there as well. Yeah. I was doing front end in React for the last 20 months, but company was very toxic and the pay was less, so I left the job Last working day was 15th Jan, and I started your course from Feb 1, and now I'm at your pace. Waiting for next year's, no hurry to get the job, but I'm targeting dollar paying company. Is it a good decision, or must I get a job as soon as possible? Whatever the pay. Depends on if you're not getting money and it's, hurting productivity, then just get whatever job. By whatever job I mean, I think that's a bare minimum of at least 30-40k INR a month. If someone's offering less than that, I think that's just plain disrespectful for someone who knows, next year's. So yeah, that's the benchmark I would keep. If you feel you're, it's hurting the productivity, that the money is not hitting the bank, then at least a very basic job if you can pick. But by very basic I mean at least 50k INR to minimum. Usse niche, I mean, if you're not getting that, then maybe skill gap is there, and then get the skills first. Why did we choose? Okay, answer that. Hey, I tried to make an application using Cloudflare, but couldn't find how to create routes. Can you please explain the raw, non-Hono code for ongoing project? Because it's pretty difficult to understand the worker documentation. Will you at least explain how to create the routes? If you are not using Hono, you cannot do routing. There is a single function that is exported at the top. So if you go through, worker documentation, the way workers work is, what is it? They have so many examples, but not a simple return JSON. Post JSON. So yeah, there you go. It returns a single function. It doesn't give you very easy, app.get, app.post like API. You can parse everything you want from here. You can check the request.host. You can check the request.path. You can check the request.cookies, headers, everything. But there's no easy way to do routing. You have to basically create your own mini Express-like framework where you can route requests to the right handlers here. So check if request.method is body and request.route is something, and then send the request to the right place. Cool. I'm thinking of making a social media platform that supports many-to-many relationships amongst users, posts, boards, similar to the functionality of Reddit or 4chan. Would you advise waiting until I've learned Next.js before proceeding on this project? Additionally, could you recommend a suitable stack for it? This early does not matter. You can use React. You don't need to learn Next.js. Go to the fanciest stack. Trust me, React is enough. And what was the other question? Additionally, could you recommend a suitable stack for this? So yeah, when you're building something like this startup, the suitable stack is what you're comfortable with. Which in this case, if you know React, if you know Node.js, if you know TypeScript, great. If not, that's fine. JavaScript as well. The most difficult bit here, as you mentioned yourself, is going to be, designing the database schema, making sure it's performant enough at scale. Everything else does not matter. Everything else is really small. The backend language you're using, the front-end framework you're using doesn't matter. But I would use React plus Node plus TypeScript. I wasn't able to use Prisma in my laptop, so type ORM would be good. What's type ORM? Is it like another ORM? Why were you not able to use Prisma though? I mean, that's never the solution. One technology doesn't work. So, I will use a different ORM. That said, yeah, I mean, everything is enough. You don't need an ORM. You can write raw queries. It's just, what is being used, or what are people using, or, if I open a project, how can I contribute there? If you open an open source project today and it uses Prisma, what do? You can't just change them to use type ORM, right? But yeah, locally you can do whatever you want. Explicit types of C was context from Hono package and does not provide any access. Need more offline video on front end. Hold on. Explicit type of C was context from Hono package and does provide env access? I did not understand that question. Need more offline videos on front end. Sounds good. Any specific topic? You should write the topic when you write this so I know what exact video do you need. Do you need just a project video? Do you need a specific video? You need how to create React hooks that do XYZ. So should we cover Cloudflare for front end and back end? And for storage, instead of using Prisma, Postgres, for a minimal cost, would you cover how to write tests in this course? Yeah, we should do tests probably at the end. Cloudflare workers, Hono has a very nice testing section. You can look at it. So we should use Cloudflare for front end and back end. And for storage, instead of using Prisma and Postgres for minimum cost. So if you don't want a lot of costs initially, even though like databases are pretty cheap, you can get like a $5 a month database. But if you need a serverless database, then yes, you should use either Firebase or even Cloudflare has something called durable objects and KV stores that you can use. They're not SQL though, so a lot of the knowledge you've gained won't be applicable there. A lot of applications might not work or might not be the right thing to build in that stack. But if you want a serverless database, it's either Firebase or it's this. So okay, I think I'm becoming the README updater. Please review this report, especially week 7. Let me know should I maintain this dump code. It's good. If it's good, please share with the folks so it becomes easy. Let's see. Oh wow, it's looks pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, we should share all of this. So it's hard for people to learn something from other people. So you wrote this and you learned so much, right? People should do the same. That said, this is pretty structured. This is like solutions for all the assignments, which is very good. We anyways needed this. It's pretty good. Talk to Rookie. Let me just ping Rookie. And let's get these in the cohort so people can just let's share them with people. Basically, my phone is dead, but just ping Rookie. Tell him I ask you to ping him and let's get these in the cohort GitHub and share with them with people, because we don't have a single place where all the assignment solutions are, and it's good if it's created by a student. AI full stack developer, any guide? I have assignments to do using LLM. Is your question, how do I become an AI full stack developer? As in like full stack developer in an AI company? Path remains the same. Providing value. That said, it might be good for you to be comfortable with these LLM libraries. So you're not, when you're talking to them, you're not able to understand the things that they're saying. Will you follow me back on Twitter if I do 100 extends? Sure. Please check this Notion doc. Is it is it a good idea to focus only on backend? Probably not. I did answer this, right? I did answer this. It doesn't matter. You'll be fine. Only front end is a little problematic. Only backend. Even that's not problematic. If I'm being honest. Yeah, you're fine. Don't be scared of technologies, though. If that's what's happening. Why did you think MobX as a state management library compared to others? So the one that I used, like Recoil, is just the one that I saw popularly being used. Does not matter. Redux is one that's a little difficult / twisted to understand if you're coming from Recoil region and vice versa. If you know Redux, Recoil seems a little different / overwhelming. But if you know these two, then any other library you can very easily understand. So if we do cover something at that, Recoil will probably be Redux. How to do password? Okay, I answered that. The sign-in route of Medium blog is wrong? Question mark. The sign-in route of Medium blog is be finding the user with authorization and verifying JWT, but this is what I've written. This is what you have written. Let's see. Oh, there should be a password here at the very least. While the same code has been published to GitHub is, this password should be there. What I have written is this. Oh, what are you doing here? Why? Okay. The sign-in route doesn't need a token. The sign-in route returns the token. So all of this logic that you've written here, whenever someone is hitting this specific endpoint, they're not sending you an authorization header. They want you to return them the token, which you're not even creating here. So this is wrong, basically. This is wrong. This is the /me endpoint where you can, you extract the user's details and return them. Okay, there you go. Your credentials are correct. You're sending me the right thing. Go back to the videos from week 2, week 3, week 4 when we're doing simple authentication in Express. Look at the sign-in endpoints there. This is wrong, but not the only thing that's wrong here is you need to have password here, and that's it. But the same code as if we'll get to this. This code is correct. The code has been published to GitHub. This is correct. And as you can see, you create a JWT and return that to the user. Here is like something else only. This is not what a sign-in endpoint is supposed to do. And I hope you understand why. Like when the user signs in, they give you the email and password, which is what you use, right? If you go to facebook.com, you put an email and password and click on the submit button. This is what the user needs to send. Versus what are you getting from the user? You are getting an authorization header from the user. When you go to a website, do you put an authorization header? No, you put a username and a password, right? So that's what your endpoint needs to support as well. Brother who could not do live, okay, answer that. Okay, bunch of repeated questions. How do you find feedback on your Vercel video? It's pretty good. There are a few things that now I'm very cautious when I release videos. I'm like, okay, let's call out all the bad things up front. That's just something I'll keep in mind, but they were pretty good. How is NFT Paris? It's chaotic to say the least. Standard is getting much better. Crypto is getting more, what's the right word? Regulated. There's not a lot of dumb money anymore. People are thinking about real use cases, which is good. That's what most conversations have been. I don't know any courses for SAP or any courses or what do you call it? YouTube channels for SAP. Alright, let me open a few more Notion docs. Wow, it's been an hour. Pretty good. Your feedback matters. Question. This feedback page, which should be opened by a particular time for a particular time slot, user credentials are not being taken. Anybody can give ratings. Any user can give a rating. It will hit my backend server for each request. Store the ratings in a Redis in an object format. Okay. 1, 12, 2, 14, 384, 493, 539. I'm assuming that's score out of 100. So every time it won't update the database. And eventually storing it in a database. Okay, so you're storing all of these in Redis and then eventually updating them to a database. Am I doing this correct? Should I use WebSockets so that every time it won't hit the backend? Please explain, it's important. Okay, this seems like an interview question, like someone asked you to build up interview question. First of all, you are storing these in Redis in object format. Why? Like, what benefit does that provide you over directly hitting the database? It seems like you're trying to back off hitting the database. You don't want to hit the database for every request. And if that is something you want to get what's called an aggregation pipeline. You want to, when the user, firstly, that will be important only if you think a lot of people are going to spam this. If you think 1 million requests are going to come for a specific rating, is when you need to get this elaborate. Otherwise, just take the rating from the user, put it in a database. Unless you create an aggregation pipeline when something very expensive is happening. If someone rates, something very expensive happens on the backend. But this is just a database entry, right? So I wouldn't even worry about Redis. I would put it directly in the database. Is the answer to your first question. Second question: should I put WebSockets here to avoid hitting the backend? You are still hitting the backend. You're still sending data to the backend if you use WebSockets. I would not use WebSockets here. They provide zero benefit. I would do a simple HTTP call. Encryption using web. So this looks pretty good. This is the code that you can write to input take the password as an input and hash the string and then store this in the database. And anytime user signs in, you can send their password again through this and compare the hashed password. Cool. Alright. Did I miss something? These points that I've said are very obvious. So maybe there is another use case in this rating application that I'm missing. Is this a specific rating application? Is it going to get spammed? Is there a reason you took the Redis route? And maybe you did. So let me know if I'm missing something. Or there's something specific in this question that if this is not a normal rating application, if it's something special. Alright, last call guys, and then I will go and record the video. Alright, let's start from the top. How to maintain discipline, daily motivation if money is not a motivation? Now, if money is not a motivation in tech, then the only motivation is if you like tech. Which only a few friends of mine are in that category, who really like computer science. And if you were that person, you wouldn't be here asking this question. It basically means try to develop very core interest in computer science if money is not going to be your motivator. I want to send the email on the user entered timestamp. I mean, suppose user entered 29th February as input. I want to send that email on that day so that the user is reminded to remind the user of him what approach to take for it. Yeah, it's a good question. What you want is a very common library you can use here is something called Celery. which lets you schedule events. That's what you want, right? You want a function to run at a certain timestamp. So you can do this in-house without using something like Celery, which is you. How do you do this? Yeah. So maintain. So this is what I would do. Put inside a queue all of your pending events. By pending events, I mean emails that you want to send out, and make sure the queue is sorted by timestamp, and then have a service. Okay, let me use. Again, I would use something like Celery to schedule this. What you want is scheduled events, scheduled function calls at some time. You want a function to be called at a certain time, and Celery is like a library that lets you do this exact thing very well. That said, if you want to do this in house, you maintain a queue of all the events and make sure the queue is sorted by timestamp at which that event needs to be conducted, and then you have a separate process that just checks the top of the queue to make sure has this happened, and if it has, it tells the other service, okay, bro, please send the email. It would be actually a little more elaborate than this. You probably would have another queue, which is going to be, I would call it the do right now queue, and then the other one is, do eventually queue. The do right now queue, the reason I'm putting it in a different queue is because, this event could fail. Sending out emails could fail, which is why you probably want them in a different queue where your actual email sender is picking it from and actually sending the email, and if it is failing, it's pushing it back to the queue. And then this is the do. So whenever someone comes to your website and gives you a timestamp, okay, I want an email at this time, you push it to this first queue and make sure this queue is sorted by timestamp, the timestamp of when you need to send the email. And then you have a process here that's checking the head of this specific thing and making sure if the time has passed, then pushing this to this queue, and then the head of the queue becomes this, and you have processors who are just picking things from this queue and actually sending the email. Good question. This is a very complicated-ish use case when you want schedule events. Yeah, as I said, the best way to do it is just use a service like Celery that lets you schedule function calls at a certain timestamp. Also back off if that event fails. The Celery will automatically retry the event after some time. Check out this website. PS, it's forked because I love the design. Interesting part was I figured out the Spotify API setup. Okay, let's see. What's the Spotify API setup though? Where is Spotify here? I'm very boomer when it comes to this. I use YT Music, but I'm sure you have your playlist or something here. My career, my snippets, my writing, my projects. I don't see Spotify, but yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's see. Does Cloudflare Pages deploy frontend on CDNs like CloudFront? Yeah. Cloudflare is one of the biggest CDN providers. Competes very directly with Cloudflare. 99.9% I would guess that happens. I can Google quickly and show you, but yeah, pretty sure they're serving frontends via a CDN and not through a single instance. Page not found here. Vaishnav, can you open your Notion doc? Twitter post. EMA session going. So far, love vehicles are out of time to retweet. Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's see. How to find startups that recently raised funds? Follow everyone I follow on Twitter. That's the only advice I gave before. I mean, you can get a Crunchbase Pro subscription, find them there. I have never done that. I've just, never mind. Don't take my advice and what I've done. Get a Crunchbase Pro subscription and follow them there. That's if you want, literally want, a list of what funding has happened, what companies funded by how much. Crunchbase is your friend. Why do you still work and grow full time on teaching courses? No, it's just very hard. My throat has limited capacity. I don't want to, I just love lying down in my bed and coding. I'd rather, make money like that. Yeah, it's very exhausting being a teacher and teaching. Sir, please, can you interview questions on Notion doc targeting startup? Can you please put an interview question on Notion targeting startups? Okay, so like a bunch of interview questions are popularly asked. I have a video on YouTube. Let me write. My phone is dead. I will forget this. So tag me on Discord and remind me. I will try my best to do a video. I mean, so yeah, I can do a video on standard questions. We'll probably, when we go to the system design, that's the only thing I can prepare for. Like I can prepare you for in an interview, which is a system design round. Everything else is very ad hoc questions that depend a lot on how much you have practiced. So yeah, during the system design section of 1 to 100, we'll sort of cover everything I can cover that can help you in an interview. Everything else is just ad hoc. I want to send email on the use. Okay, answer that. Will you come to Nepal for meetup? Unlikely. I don't know. I will do a poll, and if a lot of people say yes, then I would love to write my Nepal trip as a business expense. So yeah, even if there are 5 people, I will come. I'm happy to come. This sounds pretty good. I don't think there's one person who came in the New York meetup, so I don't think I can expect a lot of audience. But if that happens, happy to do it. With the knowledge, what type of jobs can you apply from? Struggling a bit with the front end stuff. So until you're struggling, don't apply for a job. Once you stop struggling is when you should again go to the standard route I've said a few times on today's call, which is approach a company that has hopefully recently been funded, or even if it's not recently been funded, was funded, has funds, and tell them this is how I can improve your website, and DM them somewhere, usually Twitter. Also, after applying for 200 plus opening, in response, your take on that? Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of these stories. I don't know. So, what's the good answer? I mean, I could apply. Even if I apply to 100 LinkedIn openings, I'm sure I'm not getting a response. It's just extremely cluttered. No easy way to differentiate candidates. Very ad hoc. I mean, I think applying is probably the worst way. I mean, the chances of success are really low, and my success, even getting an interview. So I would either go through a referral if you really want to go to a company that is posting things on LinkedIn. Apply through a referral, or go through the other route of ad hoc, approaching them directly. I think the whole problem is that you want to just press a button and send your resume and hope they will read your resume. Unfortunately, it's not happening right now. Even if I apply to 200 plus jobs on LinkedIn, it might happen. I don't get back a call back. But yeah, how to find US companies? Abhi tak I've been applying for Indian ones. I think that might. So I say this, but this might be coming out a lot today. But I think that might be the problem, right? You're applying to 200 plus companies in India, which unsure if they hire, or I don't know how they hire, what they hire, and how they filter. There's a very clear path. I know. I'm telling it again and again, which is approaching the founders and showing them some value you can provide on day zero. Is it a good time to start learning Rust for Solana jobs, or is it too late? This is the worst argument in tech. Is it too late to learn? Never. No. Very empty market. A lot of demand for senior engineers, lack of senior engineers, at least in this Rust Solana ecosystem. Never a bad time. Probably a great time. Choosing the tech stack between React, Next dependent on project requirement. Does choosing JS on TS or no? JS on TS, never on project requirement. Use TS. Period and full stop. 2 more Notion docs. Let's see. I'm a Salesforce developer with 3 experience. I don't see myself enjoying it 2 years on the line. Spooning. I am trying to switch full stack development. How should I approach this? Both the way of applying and resume wise. Good question. The first thing you should do is make sure you get really good at full stack. I think if you're coming from this background, anyone who's just a beginner, forget about jobs for a really long time. And by that, I mean at least 6 months. At least for the first 6 months, just make sure you are doing hard things that you will eventually do there. It's very hard to not be in a job and still work on hard things. It's easy to do it when you're in a job. When you're in a job, you're forced to do very hard things, write code in TypeScript, figure things out as per business requirements. When you're not in a job, it's so easy to chill and passively look at a course and once in a while do some coding and then back at your random, let's say not random, like whatever your Salesforce jobs, your job takes up a lot of your time. The first thing you have to do is just be very consistent for 6 months and write a lot of production worthy code, and then advice is the same. Start applying. I am fine with even getting into some sort of a company, be it remote or report, just want to get into it. Yes, so the good thing for you is you're much more open. I just want a full stack job as soon as possible. I don't want to get away from being a Salesforce dev. So for you, you don't necessarily have to, be the best developer out there because you're not looking for the fanciest remote job. But still the path remains the same. I think the first thing you have to focus on is, taking out enough time to learn full stack, which will take at least 6 months considering you're doing, it in a part-time fashion, you have a full-time job along. Good question. How's your health? Mentioned stomach in Discord. Gotten better. Thanks for asking. I'm currently working as a CRM technical in sustainability cloud. India has so many job roles I've never heard of. For example, Salesforce developer and this one as well. Full Microsoft environment. Okay. Working since 1 year, 2 months officially. Okay. I don't have a portfolio project. I have always worked on closed source companies, enterprise companies. Makes sense. What do you suggest I should do to continue focus on traditional DSA, MNC route, or build projects, make portfolio? One is a more easy, clear path to a very decent job, which is DSA, MNC route. Not something I advise on my platform because I'm not the right person to, answer those questions. What do I suggest? I usually suggest go slow and, focus on, climb up the ladder, pay your debts. You can get lucky and, directly get a remote job. You might be the best developer and not get the remote job. So, there is some level of uncertainty there. So yeah, I would take a DSA FANG job and then, eventually figure this out. The only problem that comes is once you get a FANG job, you get very complacent and, you don't have the time to get a remote job. Open source में skill issue आ जाता है, but I try. Please have a look at my resume. Let's see. So, few things, Accenture, Wipro is a mild yellow flag for me. And I am no one. So don't feel bad about this. But don't show them in a remote job. If you're ever applying for a remote job, don't mention your company name. Just say I have 5 years of experience working at startups. I'm assuming when you were at Wipro or Accenture, you were eventually working with a startup. I don't know actually. But yeah, the high level is all of this experience is going to be pretty null and void when you're applying for a full stack remote job. So your resume looks decent. That said, no one's looking at a resume in a remote job. No one understands Accenture or a lot of times the startup founder is non-technical looking for someone to build a website. They don't understand all of this. The great resume would not impress me too much. That's I don't look at resume, so I wouldn't even ask you for a resume in the first place. But yeah, that's it. That's the high level. Would you make any videos on working with CDNs anytime soon? I made one and working with videos like Vimeo or something. Will you make any videos working with CDNs? So I made one on CDNs. If you're asking for a video on how to make videos, yeah, I might do one. Like I might do a YouTube clone basically. Unsure if it'll be on YouTube or in the cohort, but yeah, that might be a YouTube clone thingy we can do. Could you please suggest some meaningful projects that we can create using the technologies you have learned? You've learned until now. Let's see. I was looking for one for this week and then eventually landed on Medium because that seemed like the easiest one. But here is one. It's not just with the technologies we have learned, but if you learn a little bit of WebSockets, you should be able to build like a collaborative editor. So try to build a collaborative coding editor or maybe Google Doc editor, doesn't matter. That's hard to build and impressive. So yeah, if you want an ambitious project, it's right there. If you want a simpler project, the standard e-commerce clones. I'm making a post request and I'm getting this error. Prisma client invalid invocation. Internal error. Let me suggest you a few things. Do you have you run Prisma generate, npx Prisma generate? It seems like you have. Do you have the database URL in your env file? If you do, I would need to look at the code after that. I mean, those are my suggestions right now. I'm sure it's something very simple. Once you find it, you'll be like, oh shit, it was this simple. But yeah, that's the high level. Storage protocols. I don't know much about that. On the web, it's saying these protocols have communication standards or rules that define how data is transferred between a computer system and storage devices. Just found a job requirement. Can you send the job requirement, like the doc? So right, yeah. seems like a very niche thing that I can guess what it means, but just show me the job requirements. I can read through and understand. Storage protocols is a jargon to me, basically. I'm sure it has some very simple meaning in the end, but I'll have to read through at least your job requirement to understand it. Wherever I try to contribute in open source project, some people always pick up issues within a minute and gets assigned ahead of me. How can I get ahead of them? I suggest two things here. Number one, if you're seeing an organization being very competitive, get out of that. There's no point, competing and, getting. You can, for GSOC, you probably should. But generally for a job, if you see too much competition, just get out of that. And, half of the game is finding the right organization. And if there is one that's already spamming and, people are out there, just leave it. The other question was, this is the only question. Okay. Live videos are also recorded and uploaded part of the course. I just started with the course. Yes, they are recorded and they are posted in the dashboard. Can you let us know, please, how much 0 to 1 topics are left apart from next Docker? And I showed the syllabus somewhere in this video. You can go through to that part of the video and there I covered what's done, what's left. Hi, how to start open source contribution? I was looking for contribution videos P5JS. It's confusing for me. I'm able to understand classes and do assignments. Yeah, so that's why GSOC is hard, right? Because every code base is very big, and specifically GSOC ones are a little convoluted. They're very old and archaic. So knowing coding is one thing. Being a disciplined, persistent employee who is grinding for that goal of getting into GSOC is a different thing. You can follow along a lot of classes, but eventually you have to read other people's code base, and it's not necessary people have written the cleanest code base, followed the best practices. They haven't. I can tell you processing they haven't. It's a very old code base, does not even have TypeScript in a few places. So there is a little more about persistence. Of course, it helps if you know a lot of coding, and if you're good at that stack, and then you can easily understand things. But processing is a very graphics heavy library. So what we've learned is not going to be enough to understand how computer graphics work. So it's a lot of ad hoc figuring things out, going through the code. All right, 2 more Notion docs, 3 more Notion docs, 4 more Notion docs, 5 more Notion docs. God. Friend of my brother has a tech company. He told me I can work there for experience. Should I go for it? Charge him. Or will it be like after my college hours? Would that count as experience? That would count as experience. You don't necessarily have to work there too. If it's your friend's company, they will still, verify that you work there for 6 months if you need it. I wouldn't work anywhere for free though. That sounds always red flag. How to maintain discipline? No good answer I have. Just stay in there, be persistent. As I find myself only 2 months away from the campus placements, I must confess that my understanding of data is rather basics, and I am not proficient I'd like to be. My days are largely consumed by code sessions where I dedicate my time to catching up and practicing. I'm cutting back on sleep. Don't do that. Family time and screen time too. I'm overwhelmed by the workload and causing me to doubt whether I will be able to secure a job. Should I go full throttle and improve my DSA skills? Yeah, so first of all, sleep and family time is important. Secondly, if you're feeling too stressed and overwhelmed, I can tell you, even with the best skills, remote jobs are hard, and there's some luck factor that comes into the picture from time to time. If you have a campus placement company coming on campus, DSA preparation, just get one job. You can always come here. There's always good to have a fallback. Don't get stressed. Don't do these many things. Don't. It's too much pressure for me. You're giving so much time here, and if I cannot guarantee you placement versus a campus can, go for that campus placement and then eventually come here. Does Cloudflare pages deploy on the? Yeah, as I said, most probably they do. 99%. I can check. But yeah, I would be super. Yeah, they do. I don't even want to verify it. Pretty sure they do. Friend of my brother. Okay, answer that. Can you quickly visualize the difference between serverless and server? So you should go back to the serverless video where we covered this, but high level. So before this, if you go to app.hierarchysteps.com, for the last few months, this was on Vercel, which basically means there was a project over here, and Vercel deploys your project everywhere. It deploys your project in 100 different locations, based on demand. If a lot of people in India are visiting the website, there will be a server somewhere in India that will be handling those requests. So if you were going to app.100xapps.com for the last 3-4 weeks, you were probably hitting a edge server, a server close to you, and Vercel did the job of bringing up your code on a server close by. That is not happening anymore. Now I have a single AWS machine. So if you go to my AWS dashboard, you'll see we have a single, if you're logged in, yeah, we have a single EC2 server which is hosting our Next.js application. What are the downsides? The downside is this single EC2 server is in Virginia, not even in India. Why? Bandwidth costs are a little cheaper in the US versus an India server. That's why I've kept it in Virginia or whatever in the US. A single C5X large machine, the cost of this is like some $200 a month, which is much cheaper than what Vercel was charging me. What is the downside? This is a single server in Virginia. Everyone's hitting that Virginia server. So now if you're going to app.100xapps.com, it will take you like 0.2 milliseconds because request is going to Virginia, response is coming back from there. Versus when we were on Vercel, it would take you 0.01 milliseconds because it was hitting an edge server close to your house. Does it matter? I don't think it matters if it's still pretty fast and saves me $500 a month. So then serverless isn't necessarily always good. It gets expensive very quickly, as you can see. But that's the difference between serverless and non-serverless. All right, time to go to Notion docs. Okay, answer this one. Doubt, silly one. How many hours per week should one put in to get a 1% developer club? If you're a beginner, a lot. Eventually, doesn't matter too much. But if you're a beginner, just starting out, 40 is the bare minimum, unfortunately. Is tech market improving? I think the crypto market is improving. I know tech market is improving. I'm seeing funding. I mean, people keep saying, I don't know. Very hard for me to judge. This is layoff season, if I'm being honest. So I wouldn't call it improving just yet. Seems like we're bottoming out. Like companies have thrown shame out the window. Basically, like let's just lay off and we'll figure out the like the media concerns eventually. Which basically means I think whatever they're fired now is their last set of layoffs and the grass is greener on the other side. But who am I? I don't know. Can't really touch the market as much. I can tell you that the Web3 market is doing pretty well. Be it hiring, be it companies raising, be it projects actually earning money. That's improved a lot in the last 3-4 months. Say I want to get into Web3, how much MERN do I need to know? What's MERN? Postgres? Okay. Yeah, so you need to know full stack very well. And by which I mean you need to know very well one stack. So look at any good, whatever Web3 website be. So imagine this is the sort of front ends that are being written. All of this data is coming from Chain, and is being indexed so that all of these images which are eventually stored on Chain are coming so quickly in front of me, and I can open an NFT and look at its stats so quickly, even though this data exists on Chain. The reason for this is they're indexing the blockchain really heavily. The front end looks pretty snappy. So yeah, every other, if you open any Web3 website, it looks something like this. So that's what you need to optimize for. You need to get incredibly good at full stack if you want to get into a Web3 company without knowing too much Web3. I have to have knowledge in my stack. Okay, answer that one. No. I've learned DSA, and how should I proceed with DSA? Either using CSS, use C++, because unfortunately companies sort of it gives you an edge. Very little syntax you need to learn, so use C++. What should I do to make myself future-proof apart from web dev? Can I target companies that year higher tax is currently earning 50K a month? The way to make yourself future-proof is do a lot of things that a lot of people are not doing. That's how you beat the supply-demand curve. You need to be very good at something that not a lot of people are good at, and there's a lot of demand for. So as you see more and more people get into web development, let's say, then get into mobile development, get into DevOps. Do things that other people are not doing. That's how you can keep growing eventually. Tech is one field where you're either growing or you're dying. There's no in the middle. You're not ever consistent. You're either constantly increasing your skills, and if you think that's not happening, that means your downfall has begun. So my only advice to you would be, if you want to keep growing eventually, start to pick up difficult technologies and work on them. GSOC doubts. I need some tips on how to approach an organizer in GSOC and fill proposals. Could you upload an offline video for the same? I can tell you this matters less than 5%, and don't approach an organizer. Contribute. They will know who you are. They will know your name. They will remember your name. Your proposal matters less than 10%. That said, I have a video on YouTube from 5 years ago where I cover, how to build a proposal. You can go through it. The advice remains the same over years. Aiming for a new organization this time. Am I late to start? Depends. You are a little late. That said, I know people who started in January and still got into GSOC. I haven't heard of anyone who started end of February and got into GSOC. If your skills are really good, you probably can. Cohort related questions. For serverless, what would be the approach to hand off heavy backend tasks to ensure serverless isn't too expensive? What would be the thing that we would use in AWS to run, let's say, a stack that calls an API for running a model that also has general login, logout, sign up? Okay. First part of this question, I understand what if there's an expensive operation. Let's say you have to run a machine learning model. You probably don't want to do that in a serverless function because it does not have resources, is very expensive, will probably time out after 5 seconds. So you can, as you mentioned, have a different service running in AWS. Probably, what's a very common use case of this? A very common use case is getting a response from a machine learning model. You don't want to run that on Cloudflare. You want to run that on your own servers. So your request from your user will go to Cloudflare. Now Cloudflare will put this into a cool implementation, birthday card. Okay, let's look at it. I mean, the first thing I see is a lot of JSX files, which is not great. I see very bad indentation, which is not great. I would put this const outside and not in the component, so it gets re-rendered. I would not rename it bday card. I just rename birthday card or card. Okay, the indentation looks a little messed up. It's a little too much space. Everything else looks pretty good. Everything else looks good. There's a bunch of other components. Let's see. Hold on. What is this? Why do you have an HTML to canvas? Okay, this is for downloading. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Interesting that you went with this approach here, did not print the page, which is another popular thing that people do. This looks decent as well. Yeah, pretty good. Other than that, I mean, I mentioned a few things other than that, you're good. If you have to install Postgres locally, then, am I not sharing my screen? Oh, shoot. I don't know when I stopped sharing my screen. Or was I not sharing it from the beginning? I don't know. But yeah, the code looks pretty good. The thing that I was saying was, bday card is not the right thing, and this should probably be outside, because even if this renders, you don't want to reinitiate the constant. That's it. All right. Opening the comments again. How do you think from first principles? Good question. This comes from experience. It's a very good question. How do you think from first principles? There's like very basic, 10 basic things in computer science that you need to know, that you need to know. Without them, it's very hard to think from first principles. But if understand, okay, this is what a backend is, this is what a database is, this is what a cache is, this is how you create your schema. Okay, this is something called an index that makes things faster, because this is how it, if search happens at scale, it becomes really slow. So you should index on a certain field, and under the hood it does this thing to make it faster. What else? Like front end is only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and React and everything else just frameworks on top. TypeScript is just types on JavaScript and is not a language that you have to run on your own. These basics, if these are clear, and then you do 10 different things and answer questions from first principles. If these fundamentals aren't cleared, is when you go down the route of becoming a React developer without understanding JavaScript, which is a very problematic situation to be in, I feel. So basically keeping your fundamentals very clear is super important, and something I would do if I want to have first principles thinking. I want to add a relatively big feature in the website, something like an interview prep assignment practice. That'd be nice. So if you really want to do this in an independent repository, because it will be really hard for me to review and merge. So the only thing I would say is you should do this and show me when you've done this, but do it in an independent repo. Hello roadmap, given the time and the changes that the website might go through. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Don't be dependent on the website. Build independently in like a simple React project. Create a component that does everything, and then eventually I should just be able to import that component. What is the thing that you're building? Relatively big feature, which is interview prep assignment practice section that will help students. Interview prep. So what exactly would this be? Like a bunch of interview questions that the user can go through. Yeah. So basically, build whatever you're building. Build it in a separate repo. The only thing you should keep in mind is use similar styling libraries to what I'm using, so it's easy for me to integrate eventually. And as much as you can, build it like an API. So put it in a simple high-level component that I can just bring to my machine. All right. Let's see this. If you have Postgres, if you have to install Postgres locally, then what Neontech or even Even is providing? They are providing you a database deployed on the internet. Eventually your app will be deployed on the internet, so your local database won't work there. When are you building Zerodha from scratch, highly scalable manner? What to build a project? It's kinda startup. Want to build a project in it kinda start. Zerodha is part of 1 to 100 to answer your question. It will be a while before we reach to building Zerodha. If I know that the traffic is going to be coming from India, there is no need for me to deploy the next application on Vercel, as I want only machines in Mumbai or close by. So what to do in this situation? If I know all the traffic is going to be from India, there is no need for me to deploy the next app on Vercel. I mean, it's still beneficial. They might have edge servers in Pune, India, Maharashtra, Delhi. They might have 10 different edge servers, so it still might be beneficial. But in this situation, you can always just host a single machine in Mumbai. I open a big code base with 40k stars and I want to create a PR, but they're asking me to write tests for it and I don't know how to. Then figure it out. I think don't do this. If you know there's a very big repository, if you know maintainers there have very strict testing expectations, you can't just come and be like, yeah, I have done this, please figure out to test yourself. It's expected for you to fix the test. If you've fixed a feature, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to fix the test. Seems like my connection is unstable. I have a 43-year-old having business background in IT networking business for 23 years, now transitioning from my business to coding because passion in coding is one of the reasons. How each factor impact remote job? Do remote jobs offering in DevOps? So to answer DevOps question, yes, I know a bunch of DevOps engineers from India who work remotely. And to answer your first question, age doesn't matter. But in your case, if you're 43 and don't have any experience in coding, you'll have to start from scratch. Is something you should know, and might become problematic because you've never coded for 43 years. So that may high level advice. But still does not mean it's not possible. It would be good for you to explain complex terms in slides today itself. Thoroughly explain them and list them down, because the rest is the same. I mean, just list down the terms in the slides so that we can focus on them before you make the offline video. Your audio is lagging on your video, so we can manage without the video. Toggles are empty in Pajot 100x tabs. Current tasks, slide number 7, index.t0.ts. Is it possible to share the chats as well? It will be really helpful. Slide number 7 has some issue, it seems. Let's see. Okay, makes sense. I will fix that. This is what someone else meant when they said there's an issue here. Stop sharing here. I think I'll call it here, guys. Let me quickly fix this. Feel free to drop off, guys. I'm just doing this so I don't forget. Week 13. I'm sorry if I've missed your question, but My throat is coming towards the end of its capacity for today. Let me quickly fix the thing that someone has asked, and then I'll just bid goodbye here. Alright, yes. Alright, that's done. Thank you for pointing that out, and I think we'll call it here. We open Zoom. Thank you all for joining. I don't know if with the lot that's left here, one poll from my side, please. Is this a good thing? Videos, live AMAs plus offline videos? Yes. No. So if you select yes, that means you're good with this format of live doubt sessions and then offline videos that cover a lot of these things. If you select no, then you mean to say, okay, you want live videos in which we learn. So is this good? Live AMAs 50-50. So worst situation to be in. But okay, cool. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks guys. I think I'll call it here. Thank you for joining, and I will see you guys next week. I did a bunch of offline videos. Alright, bye. So the website is down. Let's see. Seems up to me. But yeah, thank you. Bye guys.